Ooh. Hello, hello, hello. How are we? How are we doing? Are we feeling ready and raring to go for the Qatar Grand Prix and possibly Max Verstappen sealing the title on a Saturday? It feels weird to be live on a Friday. Obviously, a sprint weekend this weekend in Qatar. And Max Verstappen just doesn't like to win titles by the normal regulation standards, does he? He just doesn't like to win titles in a way where it's expected. He obviously left it until literally the final lap of the final race for his first title. Then last year, we didn't know whether he'd actually won the title or not when he crossed the line in Suzuka because we didn't know how many points were going to be given for that Grand Prix. And then this time around, he's just got the whole grid wondering whether or not he can finish, what is it, sixth or higher in the sprint race, which he should do fairly comfortably in tomorrow's sprint race. But before that, we've got to get to some qualifying for Sunday's Grand Prix in Qatar. And it's gonna be a close one, actually. I think it's a little bit off of what my predictions were, because I was expecting Red Bull to be quick. They look like they still are. Max Verstappen setting the fastest lap time in free practice. I was expecting McLaren to kind of be second best because they should suit the high speed corners of this Qatar circuit. Like if we look at the track itself, there's a lot of really high speed corners here. And McLaren have kind of put themselves in a situation where I thought they were really, really good at those high speed corners, but maybe they just haven't quite been able to get the setup quite right for that first free practice session, and we'll see them bounce back a little bit when it comes to qualifying. Hello, mate. How are we doing? Wow, that is a hell of a name you've got there. Games and looks at tech. Just loves everything. Loves games, loves tech. I appreciate that. But when it comes to the qualifying times, Ferrari look like they're in the second best position. This shouldn't be a track that suits Ferrari massively, but then Ferrari since the summer break have been a little bit of a different beast altogether, haven't they? Like I didn't think Singapore would really suit the Ferrari car, and Carlos Sainz went and bloody won it. So I feel like Ferrari's first half of the season and Ferrari's second half of the season is difficult to judge. Like we can't really say the Ferrari car does suit these kind of tracks without looking at literally just the last three Grand Prix, which is making it tough to judge where Ferrari are really going to be. Although for them, it looks like they're just going to be fairly quick pretty much everywhere. And that bodes really well moving into next season if you're a Ferrari fan. I know that we say every year that Ferrari should bounce back and Ferrari will be in contention for titles in the future. And it's been a little while since Kimi Räikkönen obviously won that championship for the Ferrari team. But there's still an opportunity. There's still a chance for Ferrari to get back in there. Fernando Alonso fourth fastest, a real surprise. I genuinely thought the Aston Martins would be kind of in and around the Alpines, and they are slower. Well, Lance Stroll is much slower than the Williams is as well, and I thought the Aston Martins would be in and around that kind of mix with the Alpines and the Williamses, but actually Fernando Alonso getting a really good lap out of his Aston Martin. Yuki Tsunoda has come to life in that AlphaTauri car as well. Hello, Jamie, mate. How are we doing? Welcome back. Welcome back. But yeah, Yuki Tsunoda seems to have come to life in that AlphaTauri car. I think it's a little bit harsh on Liam Lawson to kind of judge him off of that free practice session. I don't think he will be that slow come qualifying, but I don't know. It's a tough one for Liam Lawson because, again, he wasn't 100% sure whether he was going to be racing in Qatar. Then he gets a last-minute call from Daniel Ricciardo saying that he is going to be in the car this weekend in Qatar. Looks like this is his last shot, though. Daniel Ricciardo should be back into the car for the Austin Grand Prix. So Lawson with one final kind of roll of the dice to show that he is Formula One worthy to the only seat that is available, which is Logan Sargent's seat. And actually, James Vowles came out and was quite scathing, or, well, not scathing, but quite precise with what he said. And he said that Logan Sargent has a clear goal for the remainder of the season. He has set very obvious expectations that both the driver and James Vowles have agreed to, and Logan Sargent knows exactly what he needs to do if he is going to prove himself worthy of keeping that Williams seat come the 2024 season, which is the only seat still available, and actually the only real change that we've had in a very long time. Obviously, the Nick de Vries transfer happened a very long time ago now in terms of the timeline of Formula One. So it's looking like the 2024 season, unless Logan Sargent comes in, we're going to have pretty much the same grid that we started, well, at least the second half of the 2023 season with. Hello, Sally. How are we doing? This is quali for Sunday. It is indeed. So it has nothing to do with tomorrow's sprint shootout and sprint race. So they've decided now to make the sprints entirely separate from the race itself. So we have qualifying for the race, and then tomorrow we'll have a second qualifying for the sprint race, which has a slightly different format behind it. But basically, Max Verstappen can win the title tomorrow. So all eyes are really on tomorrow, although everybody obviously wants to qualify well for Sunday as well. Hello from Greece. Love Greece. Been to Greece many, many a time. My grandparents used to live out in Greece, but thank you, mate. Appreciate stopping by. But yeah, what was I saying? I was up to Yuki Tsunoda. I was talking about AlphaTauri and kind of the Logan Sargent thing. Then if we move further down, I think the McLaren's kind of a little bit out of place there. Wasn't expecting them to be 9th and 10th. Was maybe expecting them to be, well, I was expecting them to be ahead of Fernando Alonso at least, and possibly in the mix with the Ferrari. So a little bit slow from the McLaren cars for my liking, but maybe they'll be able to come up with something a little bit later. And then if we actually look a little bit further down the grid, Ocon, Gasly, Bottas, Zhou from 15th, 16th, 17th and 18th, I was expecting Alpine to actually be kind of the best of the rest midfield car. I was expecting that the four teams that have really come to life recently in Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren and Mercedes to be our top four. And then I was expecting Alpine to possibly be in the battle for kind of 5th fastest this weekend, but they really didn't seem to hook it up in Qatar, and they seem a little bit strange as a team right now, Alpine. Like, there's just clearly a lot going on behind the scenes that's taking a lot of the kind of energy of the team away from them. And I feel like Ocon and Gasly are just getting a little bit more frustrated with the Alpine team every single weekend. And it's going to come to a head at some point, right? This Alpine situation, the behind the scenes at Alpine, the problems that they've had over the last, well, actually, since they've come in, right? Since Daniel Ricciardo left and they became, thank you, Genbu, for subscribing. Appreciate that. But since Alpine have kind of taken over from Renault, it has kind of just been a little bit of a cluster of nonsense. Thank you, Jacob, for subscribing as well. But there's just been so much going on behind the scenes at Alpine that nobody really knows what's going on. And yeah, I feel like Ocon's been there a little while and is kind of a little bit used to it, but Gasly in particular looked very, very frustrated. And I mean, it makes sense that Gasly is frustrated. He moved away from the AlphaTauri team to try and come into a team that had a little bit more going for it moving forwards and was going to give him more opportunities at possibly fighting towards the top. But actually what he's come into is a team that is completely disjointed, and with AlphaTauri rebranding next season and with the possibility of that Red Bull seat being available, whether Gasly would have actually been in contention for that Red Bull seat, I'm not so sure, just because like it didn't go well for him first time around and they didn't really seem to get on, like the Red Bull team and Pierre Gasly. There's lots of talk that, you know, like there was a lot of arguments between the team and Pierre when he was in that car. So he probably wouldn't have got in there anyway, but just to be in the mix and still in that AlphaTauri setup actually looks like it might have been slightly more beneficial for Gasly. It's a tricky one though, isn't it? I don't think Gasly and Ocon will leave Alpine. Two French drivers in the French team. Gasly would have been stuck at AlphaTauri. That's very true. That is very true. I can't see Gasly or Ocon leaving, but I can see them kind of maybe putting their foot down a little bit and kind of saying to the team, like, look, we need to have something moving forwards. We need to have a genuine plan, because it feels like whenever they seem to have a plan, like Alpine's plan when they first came into Formula One was to build around Daniel Ricciardo and build the team, or that was slightly beforehand with Renault, I guess, but to build around Daniel Ricciardo and turn Daniel Ricciardo into their race-winning driver. And then that never happened, and Daniel Ricciardo ended up leaving them quite controversially. And then they're like, okay, right, we'll reset, we'll become Alpine, we'll bring in Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso is a man who's won championships with Renault. Surely, like, he'll come in and it'll be amazing. And then they messed up his contract, and then they messed around Oscar Piastri, and they lost out on Oscar, who has now turned into one of the best drivers on the Formula One grid. And then this season, they're like, it doesn't matter, we've got our driver lineup, 2 French drivers in there. Now we can really build this team up. And they lose their team director, their team principal in Otmar. They lose multiple people behind the scenes at Alpine from the technical directive side. And again, it's just like, okay, so that plan didn't work. That plan didn't work. This plan has now not worked. And we're going into the 2024 season where McLaren, Aston Martin, Williams all look like they're going to be quicker. Alfa Romeo are going to become Sauber. Whether or not that will mean a step forward or step back for them, I think it'll probably be a sideways step for Alfa Romeo for the time being. Similarly for Haas, I can't see them getting any better. AlphaTauri, though, I can see getting a lot better next season. So Alpine are kind of getting to the point where if they drop any further down, they're dropping behind quite a few teams that they should really be above because they had the head start on them. Like, if they drop behind Williams and AlphaTauri next season, suddenly you're looking at Alpine being 8th in the driver's standings. And considering, you know, the proposal for this season was to battle for 4th, then dropping down to 8th the season later, just doesn't quite feel right for the Alpine team, does it? Is there a real live stream to watch? This one right here. This will update. This will be live timings for you. Real life timings. What time will it start? I think we're about 5 minutes off the start. Not even 3 minutes off the start of qualifying this weekend. But as I said, I feel like we've got to keep our eyes peeled. There might be a few upsets here because I feel like Red Bull will expect both drivers to get through. Mercedes will expect both drivers. Ferrari, McLaren would expect both drivers to get through. I feel like Haas expect at least one of their drivers to get through. Williams expect one of their drivers to get through. Aston Martin expect one of their drivers to get through. Like, there's a lot of teams that are trying to fill those top 10 spaces. So there's going to be at least somebody who misses out on this. Alpine was supposed to be one to break into the top 3. Exactly. They were supposed to be the team that was really going to, challenge the Ferraris, Red Bulls, and Mercedes of this world. And they kind of had that 100 race plan. I don't know if anybody else remembers that, but they basically said in 100 races, which is effectively 4-5 seasons of Formula One, that was kind of their plan. It was like 4.5 seasons because we had 22 races on the calendar or something. Like, they were trying to say, okay, in 100 races, this is where we want to be. We want to be like challenging for wins or at least podiums consistently, a solid points finisher every single time around. And it just hasn't gone that way for Alpine. And it doesn't feel like it's going to go anywhere close to that way. And if anything, it looks like it's going to go backwards. And actually, when Audi come in and take over Alfa Romeo, a lot of people are, saying that they'll be a real force to be reckoned with, similar to what happened when Mercedes took over at Brawn. Like, the Audi project have enough money to pump into that, and they have the facilities that they're building themselves. So there's getting to a point now, Alpine, where they realistically could drop to like 9th or 10th in the standings if all of the teams kind of move in the direction that they want to, and Alpine continue to stand still. I really, really am worried for Alpine, which is annoying because I'm a Pierre Gasly fan. I love Pierre. I really wanted Pierre to go to Alpine and do really well, but it just doesn't feel like that's going to happen. Doesn't feel like that's going to happen. But there is Oscar Piastri. Shall we get ourselves set up for qualifying a little bit? Haven't touched on the drivers or the championship standings. Should we very quickly? Max Verstappen, 400 points, needs 3 points to seal the 2023 Formula One World Championship. So either he needs to get 6th place in the sprint race, or Sergio Perez not to get any points in the sprint race, something like that. something to do with Sergio Perez in there as well. And then the constructor standings, Red Bull have already got that 20-point gap between Ferrari and Mercedes, which could definitely be overturned this weekend if Ferrari have the same kind of pace that they've shown over the last 2 or 3 weekends. Like Monza onwards, Ferrari have been exceptional. McLaren could also get very, very close to Aston Martin. Unlikely that McLaren will take over Aston Martin. They need a hell of a weekend. They need 8 points in the sprint, 25 points in the race, plus another 18 points in the race. Is that even enough? That would get them to 80. No, it still wouldn't get them to quite level with Aston Martin, even if McLaren managed to get every single point this weekend, because I'm assuming Aston Martin will also score a couple of points here or there. So I doubt that a McLaren can catch up and overtake Aston Martin this weekend, but it is possible. Although it does look like it's going to happen towards the end of the season that McLaren overtake Aston Martin. Actually, on that, Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc could quite easily jump ahead of Fernando Alonso over the next 3 races. I'm kind of giving it 3 races time until Sainz jumps in front of Alonso, because Sainz has been on fire and Alonso not quite there. And then I'm also giving it about 2 races time where Gasly and Ocon are probably both in front of Lance Stroll. So they are falling like a stone, Aston Martin, when it comes to qualifying. But when it comes to championship points. But let's get into qualifying, shall we? Cars are on track. Seeing Russell and Sainz coming out of the garage, but the Red Bulls already rattling around. And Max Verstappen actually coming around the final corner is going to get his qualifying underway for Red Bull in what should be, realistically, his 3rd championship win this weekend. But Red Bull out and on with it very, very swiftly. There's a lot of traffic, actually, coming out of the pit lane. A lot of people kind of getting themselves in a bit of a pickle, because there's a lot of cars coming down the pit straight, starting their flying laps. So, for instance, the McLaren's having to wait a little bit in the pit lane. But Max Verstappen goes quickest in the first sector, as you would imagine. A 32.0 from Verstappen puts him top of that sector. Valtteri Bottas was actually quicker than Sergio Perez. It feels like Sergio Perez might be doing another warm-up lap. It's not vintage lap time from Sergio Perez in that first sector, but we'll have to wait and see. Max Verstappen finishes the second sector, also puts himself top of the second sector timesheet. Let's see then. Sergio Perez is going to come across the line within the next couple of seconds or so. And yeah, 128.4 is not incredible. Well, not even good from Sergio Perez, to be honest, because we're about to see the standard set by Max Verstappen, a 126.8. Fernando Alonso has actually just gone quickest in the first sector, only by 100th of a second, but finding some pace in that Aston Martin car is Fernando Alonso. Valtteri Bottas is also very quick in the second sector in that Alfa Romeo. He's much quicker than Sergio Perez. And also quicker than everyone other than Max Verstappen, although Yuki Tsunoda has just gone 3rd fastest in that middle sector. Lance Stroll comes across the line, a 127.9 from the Aston Martin, also quicker than Sergio Perez. Liam Lawson, a 128.9, and Zhou Guanyu, a 129.1. Kevin Magnussen jumps up into 4th place early on in this Q1 session. A lot of cars deciding to get out fairly early and get a lap time in. I think Hülkenberg will qualify well. I think so too. He looked to be right on top of it. And there is Fernando Alonso. I said Alonso gone quickest in the first sector. He also went quickest in the 3rd sector and has gone quickest overall. Track limits, though, Lance Stroll had his lap time deleted. I feel like we're going to see that quite a lot this weekend. It's another one of those tracks, because it's quite a modern Formula 1 track anyway, and it's built for MotoGP more than Formula 1. We're actually going to see a lot of cars running quite wide, because there is a lot of runoff area that isn't gravel or grass or anything that would actually slow the Formula 1 cars down. So we're going to see them right on the edge of those white lines, getting everything that they possibly can. Pierre Gasly also goes quicker than Fernando Alonso, although Max Verstappen, but Charles Leclerc goes quickest, a 126.4 from the Ferrari, though Lando Norris is probably going to go even quicker still and does 4/10 faster. That is much better from the McLarens and more like what I was expecting. Lando Norris purple in every single sector. Charles Leclerc is actually the second quickest in the second and third sector and getting the best out of it. Oscar Piastri had a really good middle sector, but kind of lost out in the first and third. And Max Verstappen not very happy at all with George Russell in the way in the Mercedes car. Lap time deleted from Lando Norris, though. So even though it was quick, it was too quick from Lando. And he gets his lap time deleted and drops back to 17th place. No, 18th place from Lando Norris with no time set. Charles Leclerc back to quickest. Oscar Piastri in third. Verstappen down to 5th place. Sergio Perez is going to be the next Red Bull to come across the line. And it's not great again from Sergio Perez. A 126.9. Where is Sergio Perez losing that time? Sergio Perez is really slow in the first sector. He is the 10th fastest car in the first sector, Sergio Perez. And Max Verstappen is about to come across the line and goes for a 126.4 as well. So almost matches Charles Leclerc. But Max Verstappen also not overly quick in any particular sector at this moment in time. Hello, Antonio, mate. How are you doing? Hope you're well. Liam Lawson. 12th fastest from Liam. Lance Stroll comes across the line and goes 9th fastest in the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin does seem to be a bit quicker than I predicted, to be honest. Does seem to be a bit quicker than I predicted. Logan Sargent, currently 11th fastest, and we're watching him and Yuki Tsunoda as well. 14th fastest right now in the AlphaTauri, trying to gain if he can, and does. Yuki Tsunoda goes 5th fastest. Take a little bow. Yuki Tsunoda. Fernando Alonso goes quickest by a considerable margin as well. 125.6 from Fernando. That is a crazy quick lap from Fernando Alonso at this point in qualifying. 7/10 quicker than Esteban Ocon, who has just jumped up into second place. The ex-teammates 1 and 2. Not sure that they'll start there come Sunday, but it'd be very interesting to see Fernando Alonso versus Esteban Ocon on the front row of the grid. Lando Norris with an insane first sector. Oh, and a bit of a mess second sector from Lando. Well, no, it's okay. It's okay from Lando Norris. Not an incredible second sector from him, considering how quick he looked before that lap time was deleted. And actually, Lando Norris decides against finishing that lap. So clearly wasn't happy with the middle sector either. Charles Leclerc with a lap time deleted. Track limits at turn 4. So Charles Leclerc back to 3rd place. Esteban Ocon jumps up into 2nd once more. Alex Albon is going to come across the line for the Williams team. And only goes 11th fastest. Actually, a couple of paces below his teammate. And Albon quicker in the 1st sector and the 3rd sector, but very slow in the middle sector in that Williams. So losing out to Logan Sargent in the middle sector by quite a considerable margin. Nico Hulkenberg has just started his first flying lap. Yuki Tsunoda's coming into the pits. Is Kevin Magnussen also going to start a flying lap? He is indeed. Everybody else kind of funneling into the pits as we get to the 8-minute mark in Q1. Zhou Guanyu going for another flying lap and Valtteri Bottas joining him. So we're going to have the Haas's and the Alfa Romeos setting some lap times whilst everybody else peels into the pits. Actually, George Russell is joining the Haas's and Alfa Romeos and is maybe going to go for another flying lap as well. Or is this an in lap for George Russell? No, this is a flying lap from George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. So Albon on his in lap. Hülkenberg, Magnussen, Joe, Bottas, Russell, and Hamilton. Very hot in the car, says Esteban Ocon. So clearly struggling with the heat in the Qatar deserts. I mean, even though it is a really late time for them, it's 8 p.m. in Qatar. Oh, no, it's even later. Even later than that in Qatar. I can't remember what time it is now. But, no, 8 or 9. Doesn't matter, does it? It's very late in Qatar. It's still above 30 degrees air temperature. So it would be absolutely boiling hot inside that Formula One car. Nico Hülkenberg sets his lap time and goes 12th fastest. His teammate Kevin Magnussen is now coming down the back straight. And Magnussen across the line gets himself just out of the bottom 5 in 14th. Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas are also going to come across the line momentarily. Zhou Guanyu goes quicker than Kevin Magnussen, and Valtteri Bottas, hello, goes second fastest in the Alfa Romeo. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton to come. Russell then goes even quicker than Valtteri Bottas, the man he replaced at Mercedes. And Lewis Hamilton also goes quicker than Valtteri Bottas. And the Mercedes boys showing that maybe they got rid of the right driver there in Valtteri Bottas, as he's in 4th place. Russell, Hamilton, very solid lap times from the Mercedes duo. They'll come in once again, but everybody else is coming back out once more. Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc are on outlaps for Ferrari. They're going to be first across the line for the Ferrari team to set another flying lap. We've also got Sergio Perez, who's actually just trying to navigate his way around Valtteri Bottas to get himself going on a flying lap. Liam Lawson, Lando Norris, Logan Sargent out as well. Oscar Piastri joins them. Yuki Tsunoda and Lance Stroll have just come out of the pits together. And now a little queue forming in the pit lane. Esteban Ocon is next to join the track and will go for his next flying lap. Fernando Alonso waiting patiently as Charles Leclerc has started his flying lap and will just fly past Fernando Alonso as they come down towards turn 1. Carlos Sainz is actually in a really awkward situation. He's coming around turn 4 and turn 5, and Lance Stroll and Yuki Tsunoda are both in front of him, but they're on opening laps, whereas obviously Carlos Sainz trying to go quick. A little bit of traffic for the Ferrari, which hopefully won't hold him up too much. Verstappen, Albon, and Sergio Perez also around the same piece of track, although Sergio Perez now on a flying lap for the Red Bull team. Alex Albon will get out of the way. And is George Russell going to peel into the pits here, or are Mercedes going for back-to-back flying laps? No, George Russell continues for the Mercedes team and does not peel into the pits. I'm assuming Lewis Hamilton is then also going to follow suit for the Mercedes team. He is indeed. And with 4 minutes left to go, or 4.5 minutes left to go in this qualifying session, everybody's looking to pounce. We've only got Nico Hülkenberg, Zhou Guanyu, and Kevin Magnussen in the pits. All three of them really need to improve. Nico Hülkenberg, the only one of those three that is safe right now. Actually, Valtteri Bottas in the pits as well. Valtteri Bottas 5th fastest right now. Sergio Perez, again, not an incredible first and second sector from Sergio Perez. Better from him, but nowhere near purple in either of those sectors. But let's see what he can do. Jumps up to 4th place. Does Sergio Perez, goes a little bit quicker than Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes. Lando Norris with a really poor first sector, but has gone purple in the second sector. Has Lando Norris. And let's see what the McLaren can do here. He's coming around the final corner now, Lando Norris. Can he take provisional pole off of Charles Leclerc? Carlos Sainz has had his lap time deleted as Lando Norris goes quickest by 0.3 of a second. And the track is really ramping up now. 125.1 from Lando Norris. The Qatar circuit completely resurfaced for this season's race. And Mercedes, actually, I watched a behind the scenes that they were doing a lot of analytics of the track surface itself, trying to understand the degradation that will happen over the course of the weekend on this style of surface that has been laid down in Qatar. And Carlos Sainz does jump up into 5th place for Ferrari. Yuki Tsunoda is going to be next across the line and goes 8th fastest, with Esteban Ocon coming up next. Was 2nd fastest at one point, Esteban Ocon, but only manages 6th fastest this time around. Fernando Alonso with a purple first sector once again, but a poor final sector from Fernando Alonso means that he drops in and goes into 2nd place only. Max Verstappen, though, comes around and goes quickest, as you would expect. And Alex Albon, currently 19th, needs to get himself out of the bottom 5 and doesn't do the best job of it. Goes 15th fastest as Alex Albon. So is the man on the bubble, and will it be burst? As Nico Hülkenberg is now on an outlap. Bottas and Zhou Guanyu, Kevin Magnussen also out as well. Ooh, Logan Sargent very, very close to going off the track. Here's Lando Norris's replay in the McLaren. Did he take all 4 tyres off? It's also very close. Lando Norris's lap time could be about to tumble. Oof. And Pierre Gasly, definite lap time deletion there. All 4 tyres well off the racing line. And Kevin Magnussen also just dips over the lines as well with his Haas car. And doesn't have too much time left over to get another lap in. Does Kevin Magnussen. Needs to get round very swiftly. So Verstappen, Norris has gone into the pits. So Norris happy that he is safe and should make his way through. So Lando Norris moving over. 125.1. Valtteri Bottas slow first sector. Only 13th fastest now, Valtteri Bottas. Obviously was right in the mix earlier on, but the track is really ramping up. Of course, we only need to get rid of 5 drivers in this first qualifying session. Checkered flag is going to drop, though, and this is going to be the end of the possible lap times. Kevin Magnussen has not made it to the line and only goes 17th. So Kevin Magnussen is guaranteed to be out of this session. Valtteri Bottas goes 11th. That might just be good enough for Valtteri Bottas. Going to be close. Liam Lawson, though, not quick enough. Goes 16th. Nico Hülkenberg is the man that is next across the line in this battle. And he does indeed get himself through Nico Hülkenberg and quite comfortably into 9th place. Logan Sargent is now in 15th. And Lance Stroll is coming around in the Aston Martin. Lance Stroll, 19th place right now for Aston Martin. Needs to improve on that time. It's been a pretty good first and second sector, actually, but not good enough. Another Q1 exit for Lance Stroll. And is Alex Albon on a lap? Let's see. Yes, he is. Alex Albon is on a lap. Just looking at my lap time projections. It's going to be close for Albon. It's a pretty poor middle sector from the Williams. And is he going to be able to knock out his teammate? Just by a 10th of a second, Alex Albon sneaks through into the second qualifying session. And Logan Sargent is dropped out in Q1 once again. So it is Logan Sargent, Lance Stroll, Liam Lawson, Kevin Magnussen, and Zhou Guanyu, the 5 drivers that we are going to lose out on. Low chance for Lando pole, but not impossible. Not impossible at all. Lando Norris was quickest in the first sector fairly often there, although came out overall 4th fastest in the first sector, though he was 2nd fastest in the middle sector. George Russell actually had an incredible middle sector. Actually was the quickest of anybody, George Russell, now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, he was. George Russell was the quickest of anybody in the middle sector in the Mercedes. It just shows you when you hook up a lap, it really can work for you. Max Verstappen was actually 2nd fastest in the first sector, 6th fastest in the second sector, but really brought it home in the final sector, Max Verstappen, and kind of was a 10th or so quicker than everybody else in the final sector. So that's where Max Verstappen made up the majority of his time on his lap. The Alpine also really quick in the middle sector. Gasly 3rd, Ocon 4th fastest. Is getting a little bit more spicy than we thought, just in terms of the sector mapping. Usually what happens is when you look at the sector mapping, Max Verstappen is quickest in all 3 sectors, or, 2nd fastest is also 2nd fastest in all 3 sectors. But actually, there's quite a jumble of cars up and down the grid. Lance Stroll really lost out in the middle sector, and that's probably what has cost him his place getting through. Actually, it was pretty slow in the 3rd sector as well. It's really interesting that Lance Stroll, so look at this, 7th fastest Lance Stroll in the first sector, but then 20th in the second sector and 18th in the 3rd sector. Actually, can I show you this? Let me see if I can show you this, rather than just talking you through it. I probably can show you. I know there's some things I can't show you, but I think this I can. This I surely can. Where's it out? There we go. Yeah, I can show you this. I'm sure I can show you this. Maybe. Nobody tell Formula 1. Oh. So yeah, look at this. Lance Stroll. 7th fastest in the first sector. Let me hide this. So yeah, Lance Stroll. Let's look at this together. 7th fastest in the first sector, but then just lost so much time. Look how slow he is in the middle sector. He is 2/10 off of Zhou Guanyu. Lance Stroll is the slowest in the middle sector by a long, long way. A long, long way. And then Fernando Alonso, look how quick. First in the first sector, 2nd in the final sector, to Lance Stroll's 18th. 18th. Lance Stroll is just absolutely falling apart, man. He's so slow. If Lance Stroll hung his lap together and not be terrible, he could have easily been top 10. Yeah, it should be. Like, the pace is there. Like, Fernando Alonso, okay, was 11th fastest in the middle sector. So clearly the Aston Martin doesn't suit that middle sector. But even so, that is pretty terrible, isn't it, from Lance Stroll? Should I pop this? If I pop this, like, here, rather than the track map, how do people feel about this? Is this better? Better or worse? Give me a little thumbs up, thumb down. What can I do? Fit to screen. Can I pop that there? Oh, it looks all right. There's a lot of numbers on the screen now. There's a lot of numbers on that screen now. Aston aren't quick through the middle sector. Absolutely not. No. Aston are nowhere near the middle sector. But, like, can I show you? Does my mouse come up? Yeah. So, like, Aston Martin really pulled through the middle sector. But look at this from Alpine. Alpine super quick through the middle sector. Super quick through the middle sector, Alpine. Lando Norris 4th, 2nd, 5th. This is what I mean. Like, if you hook together the middle sector in particular, and you just have a fairly decent 1st and 3rd sector, Lando Norris 2nd quickest there. 2nd quickest out of everybody. Charles Leclerc kind of getting slower progressively throughout the lap. I feel like the Ferrari is going to struggle with tyres this weekend. I know it's very easy to say that Ferrari will struggle with tyres, you know. It's not a crazy out there take, but it does feel like the tire is going to degrade over the course of a lap. Although Carlos Sainz kind of hooking it together in that final sector, I just worry that Ferrari are going to like get their tires into a nice window, and then it's going to progressively get slower as the lap continues. And I feel like Carlos Sainz didn't really have his tires in the greatest window. He was only 10th fastest and 14th fastest. And then maybe they actually came good towards the end of the lap. Max Verstappen, second quickest in the first sector, fastest in the final sector. As I said, made up nearly a 10th on the rest of the grid. But again, kind of middle sector. The middle sector is the trickiest, I would say. And kind of the most difficult to 100%. Sally likes it. That's it then. Sally likes it. It's staying. That's all I need. If you're a Formula One fan, you gotta love data. I absolutely love data. Like I could just sit here and I've got so many charts up on my screen in front of me and track maps and stuff. But there's kind of a weird balancing act that you have to do. Like some things I'm allowed to show on stream, some things I'm definitely not allowed to show on stream. So it kind of gets a bit weird. But I'll keep you updated. Oh wait, what have I just done? Oh, I just closed it accidentally. There we go. I'll keep you updated as we get into Q2 then. And we'll see if anybody can improve on their sector times in this second qualifying session. I'm assuming that the track is going to continue to rubber in. Firstly, because it's a new surface. Secondly, because we've only had one practice session so far. And also, there was a lot of dust on the track in free practice 1. And that dust is kind of, or sand and dust is having to continually be kind of pushed away by the Formula One cars. And I feel like that's also going to continue as they go through qualifying. Had an opportunity to kind of recover the track between free practice and qualifying itself. But let's see who's out on track. It's going to be Oscar Piastri who gets us underway in Q2. Carlos Sainz just behind. Lando Norris, Valtteri Bottas also out on track. Alonso, Ocon, Leclerc, Hülkenberg and Gasly joining them. So no Red Bulls as of yet. No Mercedes as of yet either. Oscar Piastri coming around the final corner. And the McLaren is going to get going, actually, as Max Verstappen makes his way out of the pits with Yuki Tsunoda. So let's just hope Yuki Tsunoda doesn't get in the way of Oscar Piastri. Move out of the way. Thank you, Yuki. And Oscar goes around turn 1. Carlos Sainz is going to be just behind, and his teammate Lando Norris is also going down towards turn 1 as well. So they're going to be the first 3 lap times set and set the real standard for this. Interesting to see who gets track limits and who doesn't in this second qualifying session as well. Because you'd imagine by now you should be at a point where really you don't want to get those lap times deleted, especially the first lap time that you set. You want to get your banker lap in. So I'm hoping that Oscar and Lando can both get their banker lap in and it's still fairly decent. Red Bull are struggling in that middle sector. They are indeed. The middle sector is, in my opinion anyway, the trickiest sector that you've got here in Qatar. Because the first sector is quite like sort of fast-paced, kind of very quick right-hander, left-hander, and you kind of swoop through turn 3. Turn 4, turn 5 are okay as well, but then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like it's difficult to nail all of those in that way. Oscar Piastri, quickest in the first and third sectors for this qualifying session at 2, but only a 25.7. So we're getting up there, but not quite at the level we were. Aston Martin have their driver lineup for next season. They have indeed. Yep. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll are still contracted for next season. Although I'd like to get your opinion on Aston Martin announcing that they are going to run a car in the World Endurance Championship, which means that obviously they will have a car for things like Le Mans and Spa, the 6 hours of Spa and things like that in 2025. So is that, Basically, Aston Martin being like, you know what, Lance? If you're not good enough in Formula One by the end of the 2024 season, we've got this lovely hypercar series that you can take part in over here in the World Endurance Championship. Like, maybe just put him over there. Ooh, Pierre Gasly has just gone quickest of anybody. 125.2 from Pierre. Very nice indeed from Pierre Gasly, although Max Verstappen is about to beat it as he goes quickest in the first and third sectors of anybody so far in the session. A 124.7 for Max Verstappen. Pierre Gasly second fastest though. Lando Norris, someone had a lap time deleted. Don't know who that was because that graphic was a mess. They should put Stroll in it. I'm kind of agreeing with you, Josh, to be honest. Sounds like, you know, an extremely, like, easy transition for them to just be like, here you go, Lance. You can be the main man in our World Endurance Championship car. Goodbye. I did think Aston Martin would... Ooh. There's an AlphaTauri. Yuki Tsunoda very nearly wiped across the front of Lando Norris there. Bit of a weird one, though. I don't think either of them were on flying laps. But they very nearly came together for some reason. Mercedes hooking up the middle sector. George Russell purple in that middle sector. Lewis Hamilton doing really well and going second fastest in the middle sector as well. And it is second fastest overall for George Russell. Pretty decent second sector indeed from George, and a fairly decent third sector too. Lewis Hamilton, though, third fastest as well, joining in with his teammate. And this is what I mean, that middle sector, you can really make up some lap time if you want and kind of put yourself right in and amongst it. George Russell only 8th fastest in the first sector and 4th fastest in the third, but quickest in the middle sector, George Russell. Esteban Ocon and Alex Albon both on a lap together right now, as Alex Albon coming around turn 10. Esteban Ocon, sorry, is actually going to be the next driver across the line. Yuki Tsunoda coming into the pits. Let's see then, Esteban Ocon. Fairly decent. First and second sector from Esteban. Obviously needs to get himself out of the bottom 5 and into the top 10. Currently 13th fastest, but hasn't set a lap time. And his first lap time puts him in 9th place. So Esteban Ocon, again, the kind of that middle sector in particular is where the Alpines are thriving. It does feel like a lot of teams have maybe gone for that middle sector by running a little bit more downforce, because the Mercedes car is not quick in a straight line in comparison. Like looking at the speed trap data, Mercedes not really that quick in a straight line, but absolutely flying when it comes to that middle sector. Like George Russell 0.2 up on Lando Norris in that middle sector and 0.3 up on Max Verstappen in that middle sector. Just Max Verstappen able to make that 0.3 back and some more in the first and third sectors. Perez was regretting defending the way that he did in Abu Dhabi. I don't think so. I think, you know, he will still be very grateful to Red Bull. In hindsight, you know, once the dust settles and he looks back and he thinks, you know, the championships that I was part of in terms of the constructors and obviously the wins that I was able to get myself in Formula One, I think he'll be very grateful to Red Bull. I think right now, in the light of day, he's struggling and obviously very frustrated with them. But it's kind of one of those things. When he steps back a little bit in retirement, maybe he'll be thankful for Red Bull for giving him the opportunity. Carlos Sainz is on a lap for Ferrari then. Is Alex Albon on a flying lap, or is it an in lap for Alex Albon? He's coming around the final corner and it is into the pits. So Charles Leclerc coming around as well will start a flying lap for him. So Piastri and Norris also on track as well. But Carlos Sainz already flying. And a fairly decent sector from Carlos Sainz. Improves on his last first sector time, if nothing else. Ooh. And he's gone deep. He's gone off. And yeah, that's a back out from Carlos Sainz. And he's going to have to get those tyres back into that working window once again and go for another flying lap in the Ferrari, because he is down in 13th place. Carlos Sainz does need a flying lap in his Ferrari. Has been really good in qualifying recently as well as Carlos. Let's have a little look. Oh, yeah, it just goes really deep into, where is that, 10-7? Oh, and Charles Leclerc also loses it. Both of the Ferraris just struggling a touch in that middle sector. The way Red Bull treat their second driver is the reason I dislike them. I think that is fair. Like, they're not great at kind of team building, our Red Bull. They are definitely fairly cutthroat when it comes... Oscar Piastri looking pretty decent. Yeah, Red Bull are fairly cutthroat when it comes to their drivers, but they kind of, in response to that, say, you know, we are cutthroat, but we get results. Like, we've got Max Verstappen to the point where he's winning championships, and nobody thought anybody was ever going to be able to displace Mercedes, and we're the team that has been able to do it. Lando Norris really quick in the middle sector. Purple in the middle sector. Lando Norris goes even quicker than George Russell, which is something, because he's also third fastest in the first sector as Lando Norris. So let's see. Oscar Piastri is going to get across the line and goes quickest. And Lando Norris is even quicker still. So this is going to be a provisional 1-2 for the McLaren team. And there it is. Lando Norris goes fastest, a 124.6. Norris and Piastri both in the top 4 in every single sector. Very, very nice indeed from the McLaren team. More like what I was expecting. Of course, we are not looking for pole position right now. We are only looking for 5 more drivers to lose out and miss Q3. At the moment, it's Esteban Ocon, Alex Albon, Nico Hülkenberg, Carlos Sainz, and Valtteri Bottas. But there is more than enough time. Ooh, thank you so much, good guy, for subscribing. Although I feel like I've hidden the alert behind this window. So I'll put the alert. Oh, put the alerts window slightly above. Apologies that you didn't get the like flashing amazingness. Albon with very consistent lap in all sectors. Where is he? Oh, yeah, 13th fastest in every single sector and 12th fastest overall. So, ooh, Max Verstappen stuck behind Carlos Sainz. Ooh. And Carlos Sainz really didn't want Max Verstappen to go in front of him there. And Carlos Sainz on a flying lap. I think they'll probably leave that be. But it was interesting to just see how much Carlos Sainz really didn't want Max Verstappen in front of him. One minute to go. And again, 5 cars have to lose out. Oh my goodness, Carlos Sainz right on the limit as he's coming through the final sector. And Nico Hülkenberg is going to come across the line fairly swiftly as well behind Carlos Sainz. So it's going to be Sainz across the line. And 9th quickest from Carlos Sainz is not going to be good enough, you would imagine. Sergio Perez currently 10th. You'd imagine is going to improve, although Nico Hülkenberg goes slower than I was expecting. 11th quickest from Nico Hülkenberg. Valtteri Bottas goes up into 9th place, which does put Carlos Sainz on the bubble. And there is Sainz out with Sergio Perez up into 9th place. Yuki Tsunoda also coming around, although a really poor first sector from Yuki, as he didn't even improve on his own lap time. Nico Hulkenberg's lap time, I think, was deleted there. Drops to the back of the pack. Yuki Tsunoda, 11th quickest. Valtteri Bottas is the man. It's going to be close. Gasly goes 4th fastest in the Alpine. Makes sure that he's safe. Is his teammate going to join him? Esteban Ocon, 13th fastest. Comes across the line and does go 5th fastest, Esteban Ocon. Sergio Perez is now the man that is on the edge. Let's see then. Lewis Hamilton now coming across the line. Goes quickest. Hello. Lewis Hamilton has entered the chat. Oh, and Alex Albon goes wide. And he goes turn 15. He just absolutely lost it there, Alex. I think, to be fair, he was trying to push it a little bit. Alex Albon really slow in that first sector. And poor. Oh, Sergio Perez had a lap time deleted. Tsunoda, Sainz, Perez, Albon, Hulkenberg. Oh my goodness. Carlos Sainz, that is very, very surprising. He's been really good since the summer break. And I'm very, very shocked. Sergio Perez, though, 13th in a Red Bull. Out in Q2. Again. Ugh. The coolest people, what team do I support? Big McLaren car. McLaren. Actually, can you see? Not quite really. I've got like an AlphaTauri hat with Gasly, and then the McLaren stuff with Lando Norris. So I guess a bit of a mix. I'm a Gasly fan too. I also like Yuki Tsunoda, who unfortunately has dropped out in 11th place, and he'll be joined by Carlos Sainz in 12th, Sergio Perez in 13th, Alex Albon in 14th, and Nico Hulkenberg rounds out that bottom 5. They join Logan Sargent, Lance Stroll, Liam Lawson, Kevin Magnussen, and Zhou Guanyu out of qualifying, and it will be Hamilton, Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Russell, Gasly, Ocon, Leclerc, Alonso, and Bottas, who fight their way through Q3. Bottas casually knocking out a Ferrari and a Red Bull. Flying Valtteri Bottas, 10th place. Was not one of the cars that I talked about being in the mix for the top 10 at the beginning of this qualifying session. Like I said, it will probably be the Red Bulls, the Ferraris, the Mercedes, the McLarens, maybe an Alpine, maybe an Aston Martin. And I was completely wrong, because Valtteri Bottas has jumped out of nowhere and hopped in to Q3. Bottas is a really good qualifier, though. I think it's underappreciated how good Valtteri Bottas is at qualifying. Ali, love the streams. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you for coming. Appreciate. I love you being here, Ali. That's what I'll say. This quali, we are watching the creation of Bottas. Perez and Stroll are not anywhere near their teammates. I mean, just Perez is very frustrating, isn't it? Where is Perez in terms of his lap times? Yeah, 9th fastest, 15th fastest, 10th fastest. There is a real gap between Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. And the gap is only widening, isn't it? That's the problem that Sergio Perez has got. It's not like he's behind Max Verstappen, but he's consistently behind Max Verstappen by the same amount. He's behind Max Verstappen all the time, but it's getting to be like he's more and more and more behind Max Verstappen. It was like at the beginning of the season, he was behind Max Verstappen, but he was finishing on the podium. Then it was like he was behind Max Verstappen, but he's finishing 4th or 5th. Now it's like he's behind Max Verstappen, and he's barely getting any points. Like he's edging his way to like a 6th, 7th, 8th place finish at the absolute best. And I don't know. Red Bull will definitely be taking a look at it. I just still think Sergio Perez will be fine for next season. I think Red Bull will understand that they're at a point right now where Max Verstappen is so quick, they don't need to really drastically change what is going on in the team and try and bring in a new driver, because it's a bit of a hassle bringing in a new driver, to be honest. But he's oh, here's Lance Stroll, a little replay. Ooh. Lance Stroll actually pushes his personal trainer. Wow. He is not a happy boy. Oof. Cool. Lance Stroll, cold, I would say. Cold. When asked about what's going wrong, he just said, "It's going shit." He doesn't really know what's going wrong, and he's just going to keep driving and hope that something changes. Thanks, Lance. Appreciate the insight. Yeah, really not gone his way, Lance Stroll, and Lance Stroll, it's an interest. He's just losing it, I think. I think Lance Stroll, this is like the turning point. I think he's properly lost his head. And like every time you lose your head in Formula One like that, it just feels like a point where it's kind of disintegrating a little bit. You know what I mean? Like the connection between Lance Stroll and the team just getting worse and worse. Lawson is loitering over Perez in their Red Bull seat. I don't think it will be Lawson. I mean, I know it won't be Lawson. It will be Daniel Ricciardo. If anybody goes into that Red Bull seat, it'll be Daniel Ricciardo. If they can convince like a Lando Norris, then maybe. I don't think they'd actually convince Lando, though, to be honest with you, especially considering the steps that McLaren have been able to make this season. I feel like Lando Norris still has the number one slot guaranteed at McLaren. As good as Oscar Piastri is, Lando Norris still has the just the edge on his teammate by that little bit in qualifying and by quite a lot, I'd say, in the races. Lando Norris's race pace is a lot better. Oh, yeah, there it is from Sergio Perez. Used a lot of curb and then just steps off the track. All four wheels cross the white line. As soon as all four wheels are off, that is it. Nathan Reynolds, Stroll is throwing a tantrum, a big tantrum as well. It's like a little bit embarrassing for Lance Stroll at this point, isn't it? Because he basically came out, talked to the press, but didn't really talk to the press, and then didn't really offer anything of substance to the press officer either. Pushed his personal trainer. Yeah, I don't know. Here we go then. The final qualifying session until qualifying tomorrow. Final qualifying session in Friday's qualifying for the Qatar Grand Prix starts with Valtteri Bottas. And Valtteri Bottas going for it in Q3. The surprise name, you would say, in the Q3 drivers, and going for it early. Although both Alpines in there are a little bit of a surprise. I thought maybe one of the Alpines would sneak through. But I suppose when you lose Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez, I was expecting Albon to be a little bit quicker in the Williams. Maybe not any better than Q2, but kind of in and amongst. I thought Albon would be maybe 11th, 12th, but 14th, not too far off, I guess. See then, Lewis Hamilton is awaiting the go-ahead. We have Valtteri Bottas out on track. He'll actually be the first driver to set a lap time. We then have Charles Leclerc and Fernando Alonso behind. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri have just making their way around the first few corners. Esteban Ocon also at the end of the pit lane. But Valtteri Bottas, as I said, is going to be first. Oh, Lewis Hamilton coming out of the pits as well. Is that Max Verstappen ahead of him? It is indeed. So Verstappen just out of the end of the pits. Lewis Hamilton also coming out of the pits as well. Oh no, sorry, George Russell given the go-ahead before Lewis Hamilton. I thought Hamilton was ahead of Russell, but I am wrong. George Russell out first, Gasly out, and then Hamilton out last. So we've got Bottas, Leclerc, Alonso, Norris, Piastri, Ocon, Verstappen, Russell, Gasly, Hamilton. Yeah, Hamilton will be last across the line. Was Hamilton's P1 and Q2 an indication of pace the Mercedes has? I feel like it's an indication. Well, I mean, you can see the Mercedes so quick in that middle sector. And when the other cars like Leclerc, Verstappen don't quite hook up that middle sector, definitely gives Mercedes a real opportunity to jump. Oh! And that's Charles Leclerc getting all out of shape at turn 4. And he will be aborting that lap. That's happened a few times now with the Ferraris, where Sainz and Leclerc haven't quite been able to get the most out of it. I feel like that Ferrari might be quite tricky to drive around here, just from what we've seen in qualifying, which is a shame because they have been on a real turn of form since the summer break, the Ferrari team. But maybe Qatar is just one step too far. Lando Norris goes quickest in the first sector of anybody. And Valtteri Bottas sets the first flying lap. Max Verstappen is also starting his first flying lap, so we'll keep an eye out on his sectors as well. Bottas sets the standard at a 1:25.5 though. George Russell's going to begin his flying lap. Gasly 2. I think Fernando Alonso is the second driver that is in a flying lap right now. Yeah, he is indeed. So Fernando Alonso is going to be next. And then Lando Norris is absolutely flying, by the way. Quickest in the first sector. Second quickest in the second sector. Although Max Verstappen now takes that first sector away from Lando. Alonso and Lando Norris with a 1:24 dead. So that is the standard then. Lando Norris has set the benchmark. Oscar Piastri now coming around the final sector will be next across the line to set a flying lap. Charles Leclerc's lap time, not really a real lap time after he aborted the lap and will be deleted because he went off of the racing law. Ooh, Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris's lap time deleted. Turn 5. Lando Norris again with a lap time deleted. Oscar Piastri a 1:24.5, so 5/10 slower, but a clean lap nonetheless. Oh my God. A 1:23.7 from Max Verstappen. That really sets the standard. That really sets the standard. I don't think that will be beaten by anybody. George Russell second fastest, and Lewis Hamilton is going to be next across the line. Currently coming through turn 15. Oh, sorry, Gasly's also in there as well. Where's Gasly going to slot in? 6th place is Pierre. But Hamilton now coming round the final corner and across the line. Charles Leclerc also following in as well. 6/10 away from Verstappen. Still not within half a second, but we're closing in. Charles Leclerc, nope, also 5th fastest. That lap time from Max Verstappen is unreal. 1:23.7. Ay caramba. And you can just see there, Hamilton 5.5 temps, Russell 6 temps, Piastri 7 temps, Leclerc 9 temps. Ocon a 2.5. Like, everybody is just so far off Max Verstappen right now. Ooh, yeah. A little wobble from Charles Leclerc. That Ferrari looks properly on the edge. And you know what happens when Charles Leclerc really pushes it and the Ferrari is right on the edge? It's gonna end in tears, I feel. It's gonna be some tears. What team do I support? I am a McLaren fan. I have been since 2010, which I feel like was the worst time to become a McLaren fan. Ooh, Lando Norris on the radio there. Unfortunately, was not told that Charles Leclerc was on a push lap behind him and didn't get out of the way in the best fashion. Wasn't really in the way either, though. But Lando Norris, no lap time. Thank you, Alexandra, for the subscription. Appreciate that. And if anybody hasn't subscribed, if you're watching and you haven't hit the like button, you haven't subscribed, now's the time. We've got a 30-second sort of minute time lapse now whilst the drivers come back in, get themselves a fresh set of soft compound tyres. What else are we going to do in this minute? If not, leave a little like, subscribe, maybe find a video to watch in 10 minutes time on my channel. There's some very good ones about Max Verstappen and his driving style in the Red Bull, or possibly about Max Verstappen and how he's ruined Red Bull's driver academy. Went on a little bit of a Red Bull rabbit hole recently. Although I do have a video coming out this evening on Andretti that isn't quite done yet. I was trying to get it edited and done before this. I was hoping to get it out this morning, but it didn't quite happen. So, subscribe because that's coming out on the channel soon. Is this quality for the race or the sprint? This is for the race on Sunday. So the sprint will actually be live for the sprint qualifying, or the sprint shootout as they call it, and also the sprint race itself tomorrow. So make sure you are subscribed for both of that as well. So much content coming your way. Why would you not be subscribed is the real question. Anyway, that is my minute rant on liking and subscribing, and we are back underway as the teams exit the pit lane and start to get themselves into formation to go for their final flying laps. 3.5 minutes left to go, and all of the cars seem to have entered the pit lane altogether. There's a lot of cars going very slowly in the pit lane. I feel like they're just trying to cool down their tyres a touch. Still very hot out there in Qatar. I mean, it is a desert, but it is also at the... Oh! George Russell's come to a stop in the pit lane. Oh, dear, dear, dear. Did George Russell fully stopped in the pit lane? Whether that was a technical fault or whether that was him coming to a stop, we'll have to wait and see. Been subscribed for a year now. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nathan. And Sally, of course. But that felt strange from George Russell. He came to a full stop in the pit lane, but it felt like he was stationary for almost so long that it felt like something had gone wrong. Like he was stationary for so long that it looked like the car had just stopped. I genuinely thought that was going to be like George Russell's lost all power and they're going to have to run down the pit lane and wheel the Mercedes back in. Max out on a leisurely Sunday drive. He is indeed at this point. 2 minutes to go. Max Verstappen has come across the line and will be going fast again, but doesn't need to improve much. 123.7 is just obscenely quick from Max Verstappen. Like, the only place where he can improve is the middle sector, and the Red Bull just not quite built for the middle sector in the same way some of these other cars are, but so much quicker in the first and final sector. Like, look at that first sector. 0.3 up on Lewis Hamilton is Max Verstappen in the first sector alone. That is just obscene. Here we go then. Lando Norris across the line. No time on the board. And the guy that looks closest to Max Verstappen, no banker lap though, means that he's got to either risk going for it or maybe just taking a little bit of the edge off, guaranteeing himself a lap, making sure that he starts somewhere sensible. It's going to be a close one for Lando Norris. Pretty poor in the first sector. I say pretty poor. Second fastest in the first sector from Lando Norris. But it looks poor because he's 0.2 off Max Verstappen straight off the bat. Or they should be quick in the middle sector, Lando Norris. So maybe he can make up at least a chunk of that 0.2. Oh! Oh no, that looks like he's gone over. I think Lando Norris has gone off at turn 10. And it's a slow middle sector from Lando Norris anyway. I think that might be it for Lando Norris because the checkered flag is waved. And that is going to be it for Lando, isn't it? Fernando Alonso comes across the line, goes third fastest. Lando Norris second fastest, but I think might have exceeded track limits. Don't say it quietly. Maybe the stewards won't notice. Esteban Ocon, 8th fastest from Esteban Ocon. George Russell is going to be next across the line, and Oscar Piastri just starting the 3rd sector as well. Let's see then George Russell coming around the final corner. Is this Mercedes good enough? Not quite. Is potentially 2nd fastest if Lando Norris's lap time does get deleted, but still 4.5 tenths off Max Verstappen. Oscar Piastri now coming around. Can he get in front of the Mercedes cars? No. Gets in between the Mercedes cars. So Russell goes 3rd, Piastri 4th. Lewis Hamilton, Pierre Gasly as well there. Goes 8th fastest, Pierre Gasly. So jumps just in front of his teammate. And that is that. Verstappen, Norris, Russell, Piastri, Hamilton are top 5. Fernando Alonso, Charles Leclerc, Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, and Valtteri Bottas round out our top 10. And then, of course, the drivers that we lost in Q2, Yuki Tsunoda, Carlos Sainz will start in 12th place, and Sergio Perez will start in 13th for the Red Bull. And then Albon and Hulkenberg in 14th and 15th. And then finally, Lando Norris, frustrated. I think he knows that lap time's going to get deleted because he's frustrated with himself and annoyed. Let's see. I don't know if that's over the line. Let me see again. No, Lando. Yeah, he's off. Lando Norris is going to start from 10th. Oh, Verstappen actually lost it as well. Aborted that final flying lap, did Max Verstappen. I mean, the 1:23.7 was already beyond good enough. Oh, Lewis Hamilton had a little slide as well. That's why Hamilton didn't improve. He completely lost the rear end of that Mercedes car. Wow, okay. So a lot of drivers making a lot of mistakes there at the end of qualifying. But as it stands, Lando Norris is going to drop down to 10th place. So George Russell is going to start on the front row. Oscar Piastri and Lewis Hamilton just behind on the 2nd row. That means Alonso, Leclerc, Gasly, Ocon, and Bottas will jump up a position. Lando Norris is going to start in 10th. Then we've got Tsunoda, Sainz, Perez, Albon, Hulkenberg behind, as I said. And then finally rounding out those drivers we lost in Q1. Logan Sargent, Lance Stroll, Liam Lawson, Kevin Magnussen, and Zhou Guanyu will start from the back of the pack come Sunday. But we do have a sprint race tomorrow for you anyway. So why are we even worried about Sunday when we've got the jam-packed action that is the sprint race Saturday and the possibility of Max Verstappen winning the championship? So you'll want to be here for that. You'll want to be live with us on the channel to make sure that we see Max Verstappen lift that World Championship trophy after winning a sprint race. It'll be weird to watch somebody win a championship on a Saturday, but it'll also be, very interesting to see how that happens and how things happen. But Lando Norris actually pulls into the P2 slot in the McLaren. I just think, why hasn't that lap time been deleted? Was he actually on? He just didn't look anywhere close to being on the track. But maybe he was. Anyway, I'm going to leave you there. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And I've got a little video on Andretti coming out in like an hour or two's time as soon as I get that edited and uploaded. Just got the final little tweaks to add to it. And then, as I said, live for both events tomorrow, the sprint shootout and the sprint itself, and of course live for the race on Sunday as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate it so much, and I will see you tomorrow.